Creating your first event experience can be so overwhelming, especially if you don't have an event planner. Well, here I want to share with you some tips and some resources and go beyond the event planning. Okay. So I'm going to go beyond the thoughts of decor, basic agenda items, administrative tasks. Now, those things are important. However, I want you to focus on these five crucial points that you can't overlook. Grab your notepad. Let's get right into it. And let's start with number one. Okay. Because I want to share some of my mistakes and the mistakes I've seen others make. Okay. So, number one, correctly estimating the complexity. One of the first pitfalls in event planning, let me tell you, is underestimating the complexity of the various tasks. It's like juggling, but with more variables. So let's start by correctly estimating the scope, the intricacies, and set the stage right at the start, at the beginning of planning. Break down some of your tasks, create a timeline, consider potential challenges. Everybody wants the happy path, but I'm thinking, what could potentially go wrong or slow me down? Okay, so when you can at least estimate what could go wrong instead of what could go right, it can help you be better prepared for anything that comes your way. And yes, things are going to come your way. Now, I was reading an article. It's a company in the UK. It's called KDM Events, and it says here, regarding event management, you have the concept phase and the coordination phase. The planning can begin once you've had your concept. This is most likely one of the lengthiest parts of the process because there are likely to be quite a few things you need to cover. Now, just as I stated before, like there's basic items that we really need to make sure we think about, right? Like deciding on the theme, nailing down a solid budget, drawing up an itinerary, searching for the right venue, um, planning caterers and people that are doing all the decor. Now, what I thought was interesting is I zoomed right into the risk assessments and the contingency plans. Now, there's things that are going to go wrong. So there's things that you can't even estimate, but you can begin to make a list to at least prepare yourself just in case, right? So what happens when things go wrong and how will it be managed? Who's going to manage those issues? Who's going to be responsible for those things, whenever it arises? Because as you know, and if you've been to an event, you may have experienced it or you've planned an event and yeah, you know what I'm talking about. So now your list may be shorter or longer depending on the scope and size of your specific event experience. But the point is that throughout the coordination part of the process, you need to ensure all your bases are covered. So to look at the complexities different, now I'll be honest, we won't catch everything. Whoever the event organizer is, I know staying in control is super essential. So if you are that person, I get it. Be sure to keep things tight and stick to your plan as much as possible. If you go off script and get distracted, you might waste time, money, and resources. All the above. It might not be an or. So, when you start on the right foot and you know that things could potentially go wrong, it can be helpful to just be mindful of that on the front end. So how do we get through this, right? Of okay, how do I estimate how complex my event is going to be? You can draw up a timeline before you start planning and set clear targets of what should be done, when should it be done, and who should be responsible for it. I love checklists. I like seeing progress being made, especially by who, and you can see who's actually slow to get things done so that you can have those conversations. But when you can see the needle moving, in the direction that's ideal. Mwah. Okay, you can be too much in control when planning your event. So if you keep your eye on the prize, meaning knowing the why, the direction that we're going in, the strategy, and you can clearly understand what your event should be, like the ideal of what it should look like before you do anything, right? Before you do anything, that should be clear. Okay, moving on, moving on. Point number 2, capturing value data and using it. You know, a lot of us are capturing information and we don't even know that we have the information. But let me talk to those that are capturing data and they're like, well, what do I do with this information? I won't go into how you're capturing it, you know, all of that. I'm just going to talk to you as if you are already collecting data. It's not just for the big companies and corporations, it's your secret weapon in event planning. Collecting and analyzing data from past events or audience surveys provide invaluable insights. Understand your audience and their preferences. And you could use the data to tailor your event for like maximum impact. Now, according to the Goldcast blog, you could use data for making real-time adjustments to your event, improving event logistics, identifying your most engaged accounts. That's really critical, especially if you're pitching. Personalizing your follow-ups. If you know person A loved particular session that they went to, maybe you can be able to segment and curate a special experience for those that went to certain workshops. Just putting this out there. You could be improving future content based on the data that you've received. Driving net new pipeline. You could be using the data to measure your event ROI. It's really critical that if you do have sponsors and others that have helped pour into it, that you can report out, like this is how we did. Improving customer retention rates. With this data, I know that it's a modern virtual thing to be thinking about, but it's so crucial. And you can collect a lot of data. And mind you, the magic is not all the data that you're collecting, it's how you're going to use it. Collected data falls into 2 main categories, active and passive. Remember that, okay? Active data is volunteered by the attendees. It's the information your attendee actively shares with you through interactive features like surveys, forms, polls, Q&A, chats, one-on-one conversations. Now, active data can be either quantitative or qualitative, right? And since you're essentially asking attendees for it, you have the opportunity to customize your questions to gain exactly what you're looking for or the information that you want to know. Now, passive data, on the other hand, is collected passively on the back end without attendee engagement. So it's kind of like a secret service system. The user shares this information with you by simply attending an interaction throughout your event. So for example, the sessions that they attend, links that they've clicked, time that they've spent looking at certain things, you can collect that data, and that's called passive data, okay? Now, I think that both 2 points are something that you should consider if you don't have an event planner. So consider the complexities of an event and then thinking about the data and how you're going to use it in your event. Now, this brings me to point number 3, okay? Properly timing the event schedule. Timing is everything. Ever been to an event where everything felt rushed or dragged on forever? I've been there. Today, we're mastering the art of event scheduling, from arrival times to breaks, to ensure that every minute serves a purpose. It should be strategic. It shouldn't just be very rigid when you're planning. A well-paced event keeps your audience engaged and leaves a lasting impression. When was the last time you've been to an event and it ended like right on time, or you were able to go to lunch and you got to be able to network with the people that you wanted to because it ended at the time that they said it would end? or it started on time. Even better, even better. According to the Social Tables blog, running out of time is a major event planning problem. But the good news is it's totally avoidable. That's such good news. Fight the urge to under budget your time by getting good at understanding which tasks are important but not urgent. You can also prepare for planning in other people by giving them strict deadlines and making them just really more accountable, right? And more than enough headway, when you're giving the deadlines, make sure that it's way before you actually need it, so that that could be an integral part in the decision-making process. I remember speaking for an event, and my content wasn't due until a week prior to the event. You know what I was doing for the event? Not working on tweaking the content. I know that much. And it puts everyone under pressure when things are due at the last hour. It puts everyone, doesn't matter if it's AV production, if it's the event planner, the event host, MC, like it puts everybody under the gun if deadlines aren't properly established. Now, and established and managed, because when they're properly established and managed, magic happens. Because it's unfortunate, because you can cause also burnout for people, and we definitely don't want burnout. So timing of your event is so crucial. Okay. Point number 4, audio visual failures, technical issues, lights, camera, action, or not. Now, technical hiccups can turn your event into a blooper reel. Okay, let's be honest. But let's tackle the audio visual failures head on, from sound checks to backup equipment to um, making sure that things are in place prior to in the planning process. Remember, a glitch-free event keeps the audience focused on the content. And that's where their focus should be, right? Not the technical difficulties. Like, that should not be their main focus. Here are 3 quick tips from Skift Meetings. There's a site that's online that you can go to. They have all kinds of unique things about meetings. And they gave like a plethora of tips of what to avoid for AV tech production stuff. But I'll give you quick 3 tips that I'm like, okay, that's easy to digest and it's manageable, especially if you're doing an event, you don't have an event planner, and you're like, okay, what do I need to know? Okay. Always make sure you or your AV team have plenty of batteries, like on hand, and swap them out for new ones as often as possible. It's so frustrating when a mic dies and you're in the middle of great content, a great talk. So that's one. And then fully test all video prior to the show or event to ensure playback quality. Have you ever seen a video playing on the screen and the quality is, ugh, yeah, I've been there. If a new version is received, it must be tested again. Now, speakers, that's what we're known for. Last minute updates. It's so important that the AV production team, that they're testing that new information. And if you're paying an AV production team, make sure that you do know what their contingency plans are if something does go wrong, or if their batteries aren't there. Let them walk you through their process, especially if you're paying them. And if they don't have a process, you probably need to rethink budget and your top priorities. Just like I said about event production, let me try that again. Just like I said, it's the event predictions episode. Just like I said in the event prediction episode, it is super important to keep the momentum going year round. Yes, that's right. Keep the conversation going. Keep the community connected. Just like I said in the event production episode, it is super important to keep the momentum going all year long. Yeah, that is exactly what I said. Rewind it, play back if you need to hear it again. Keep the conversation going, keep the community connected. And that brings me into my last top point, anticipating next steps. This is something you can't overlook. Anticipation is key, and not just in the game of chess. We're talking about foreseeing the next steps in your event planning journey, from post-event surveys to follow-up emails. Think ahead. Anticipating what comes after the event ensures a seamless transition, and it sets the stage for future success. Now, there comes a time when you need to be thinking through what happens after the event. So when you are like thinking about the event concept, it should be post-event, the feeling, the engagement. And I'm hoping that makes sense. During the event, you should have a clear call to action, inviting people into a community group, or it's another event experience, or a smaller touch point that's more exclusive. Don't let all of that time for your main event go to waste. Also, don't plan this the night before. Like the next step, don't plan it the night before. Think leaps and bounds ahead of your audience. Truly wow them and create for them a next step that they didn't even know that they wanted or needed. Okay, let's do a quick recap. We've covered 5 essential, like crucial points you can't overlook when going beyond the event planning, okay? Correctly estimating the complexity of your event to avoid being caught off guard, capturing valuable data and using it to tailor all the details to your event, properly timing your event experience so that your guests are not disappointed. And also, we talked about addressing audiovisual failures and technical issues for a glitch-free experience. Anticipating next steps so your post-event strategy is on point is priceless. And there you have it, our, our 5-point guide to going beyond event planning. I hope these tips can help you create memorable experiences without breaking the bank. If you enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to like and hit that notification bell so that you never miss future content. And if you're a professional speaker, make sure to pass on the information. Bye for now. Until next time, continue to innovate, connect, and make a lasting impression. Bye for now. Until next time, continue to innovate, connect, and make a lasting impact on your stages. Two, creating your first experience. Creating your first event experience can be so overwhelming, especially if you don't have an event planner. Here, I wanted to share some tips and tools and some resources on what to think about when creating your event experience. I will go beyond the thoughts of decor, basic agenda items, and administrative tasks. Although those things are important, I'll go deep to share some of my mistakes and also the mistakes I've seen others make in our industry. Now, go grab your notepad, come back, and let's chat about it. We're going to go beyond event planning and learn 5 crucial points you can't overlook. Okay, point number 1 of 5, 1 of 5, correctly estimating the complexity of your event. Correctly estimating the complexity of your event. One of the first pitfalls in event planning is underestimating the complexity of the various tasks. It's like juggling, but with more variables. Start by correctly estimating the scope and intricacies to set the stage right, especially early. Break down the tasks, create a timeline, and consider potential challenges that you could encounter. When you can at least estimate what could go wrong instead of dreaming of what could go right, it can help you better be prepared for anything that comes your way. And believe me, everything will come your way. I was reading an article from it's a UK event blog site called KDM, and they stated regarding event management, when you have your concept, the planning can begin. This is most likely one of the most lengthiest parts of the process because there will likely be quite a few things you need to cover. Now, previously I stated that we're talking about basic items. We're not talking about deciding on the theme and your budget and your itinerary and your venue. No. The 2 points that stuck out for me was risk assessment and contingency plans. Those are the top 2 things out of their whole plethora list of these are the things to be concerned about in the coordination part of planning. Now, yes, the concept, the why, all of the questions to be asked on the front end is just as critical. But the contingency plan is what happens when things go wrong and how will it be managed? Who will be responsible when the issues arise? Because they will. Now, our list may be short or long, depending on the size and scope of your particular event experience. But the point is that throughout the coordination part of the process, you will need to ensure all of your bases are covered. To look at the complexities differently, it takes time. It does. It really does. And I'll be honest, we won't catch everything. We just won't. Whoever the event organizer is, I know staying in control is essential, but be sure to keep things tight and stick to your plan as much as possible. If you start to go off script, or you get distracted, honestly, you're gonna probably waste time, money, resources, all of those. Um, and the reason is because you need to ensure like what needs to be happening and when. There shouldn't be, what should I be doing now? We should know. Now, it may be helpful to draw up a timeline before you start planning to set clear targets of what should be done, when should it be done, and who should be responsible for it. I love checklists, like when things are getting done and the progress. I love seeing that. You can't be so much of a control freak when planning your event because you got to be flexible. You got to be flexible when things do arise. So keep your eyes on the prize, the end goal, the why, so that when you clearly see things maybe falling by the wayside, that you still know the end goal. So let's jump into number 2, capturing valuable data and using it. Now, point number 2, data is not just for the big companies and corporations. It's your secret weapon in event planning too. Collecting and analyzing data from past events or audience surveys provides invaluable insights. Understand your audience and the preferences, and using that data to tailor your event for maximum impact. According to the Goldcast blog, you could use data for making real-time adjustments to your event, improving event logistics, identifying your most engaged accounts, that's really important, personalizing your follow-ups. For example, if you knew that person A, Z, and D went to a particular breakout session, you can customize your thank you email. Like, you could really use data to your advantage if you're willing to put in the work. Now, improving future event content could be something that you use the data for. Also, you can improve your retention rates if you're looking at the data properly. With modern virtual event platforms, you can collect a lot of data. But as I mentioned before, the magic is how you use it. Collected data can just be something that can take your event experience to the next level. Now, when you're collecting data, it falls into two different categories, active and passive. Now, active data is volunteered information from your audience, right? So they're getting this through Q&A, questionnaires, polls, surveys, your one-on-ones, different chats. Now, active data can be qualitative or it could be quantitative. And since you're essentially asking attendees for the information, you have the opportunity to customize the questions and gain the exact information that you want to know. It's amazing. Now, passive data, on the other hand, is collected passively. And this is happening on the back end. So this is without attendee engagement. The user shares the information with you by simply attending and interacting with your event. And you're able to capture information like what sessions they attended or links where they've clicked and time spent. Data can be very powerful if you use it the right way. Okay, that brings me to point number 3, properly timing the event schedule. Somebody please say that again. Timing is everything. Ever been to an event where you felt either rushed or it dragged on way beyond the time? It dragged on forever. Today, we're mastering the art of event scheduling, from arrival times to breaks, ensuring every minute serves a purpose. A well-paced event keeps your audience engaged and leaves a lasting impression. And that's what we're supposed to do, right? Putting on these events. According to the Social Tables blog, running out of time is a major event planning problem. But the good news, it is totally avoidable. Fight the urge to under budget your time by getting good at understanding which tasks are important but not urgent. You could also prepare for planning in other people by giving them strict deadlines and more than enough headway before the actual decision-making aspect. So instead of something, a week before the event being due, maybe you say it's 45 days so that it can help with your decision-making or planning process before it's actually needed or due. I remember I had a speaking engagement and they told me that my content was due. It was about a week before the event experience. Let me tell you, the day before my deadline, I wasn't tweaking my content. Once I learned that I had so much time to get something done, I'll get to it. I'll get to it. But it puts everyone under pressure. And when you put people under pressure, it can cause burnout. And you don't want that for your folks. Point number 4, audio visual failures and technical issues. Do not overlook this, okay? If you have an event planner or not, if you have a professional AV team or not, think about this. It's supposed to be lights, camera, action. Technical hiccups can turn your event into a blooper reel, okay? Let's tackle the audio visual failures like head on, from sound checkups to making sure you have extra equipment on hand. Remember, a glitch-free event keeps your audience focused on the content, not the technical difficulties. I feel like I'm tongue-tied. Here are 3 tips that I got from Skift Meetings. It's a website about all the tech stuff that could possibly go wrong and to avoid any tech issues. Always make sure you or your AV team have plenty of batteries on hand and they're swapping them out as often as possible. Have backup microphones standing by at all times. Fully test all your video prior to the show to ensure playback quality is okay. Now, if a new version is received, and I know speakers, we are known for, hey, I have an update. So when new information comes, that also needs to be tested. So speakers, let's try to do better. Let's try to do better. And especially if you're paying an AV production team, make sure you do know what their contingency plan is if something goes wrong. Let them walk you through their process. And if they don't have one, you may need to rethink budget and top needs. Just like I said in the event prediction episode, it is super important to keep the momentum going year round. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, year-round engagement, you need to go back to that episode. Keep the conversations going, keep the community connected. That's next level. That's the goal. And how do we do that? That brings me to point number 5, next steps, specifically anticipating next steps. Now, anticipation is key, and not just in the game of chess. We're talking about foreseeing the next steps in your event planning journey. From the post-event survey to follow-up emails, think ahead. Anticipating what comes after the event ensures a seamless transition and sets the stage for future success. This changes the game when you're thinking about your event concept and you know what it should look like after the event experience. And I'm hoping that this makes sense and it resonates with you. During the event, you should have a clear call to action, inviting people into a community group or another smaller touch point experience that's all inclusive or exclusive. Now, don't let all of the time that you spent planning for the one event go to waste if you're not thinking about what happens after that event experience. Also, don't plan this the night before. I've seen so many creators, event creators, try to figure out what is going to be the next thing after the event. They're trying to, oh, let me put this QR code, let me put this flyer out there for the next date. No, you need to ensure that you're thinking leaps and bounds ahead of your audience. Truly wow them and create for them a next step that they didn't even know that they wanted or needed. Amazing. Now let's do a quick recap. We've covered 5 crucial points you can't overlook. Now this is going beyond event planning. Correctly estimate the complexity of your event experience. Avoid being caught off guard. Capture valuable data and use it to tailor your event. Properly, I can't even say this, properly time your event experience so that your guests are not disappointed. Also, address audiovisual failures for glitch-free experiences. Please, please, please. Those are the worst. Anticipating next steps is number 5, and it is all about what happens next. What are we invited them to? Let it all be strategic. And there you have it. That's our simple, I'm hoping it's simple, 5-point guide to going beyond event planning. And I hope these tips help you create memorable experiences when you're thinking outside of the box and you're not overlooking these details without breaking the bank as well, right? You're doing these things, and if you're, bootstrapping this, be thoughtful, be strategic, be mindful. And if you enjoyed the episode today, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss our future content. And hey, if you know a professional speaker, pass this on their way, okay? Bye for now. Until next time, continue to innovate, connect, and make a lasting impact on your stage.